I'm your host, Olivera Bay. Okay. Yes, so we're talking about conversation design mastery, insights from the experts, and I'm your host, Olivera Bay, and I'm super excited about our discussion with some amazing speakers joining us from around the globe who volunteered their time to be with here us today. So thank you and welcome. This event is exclusively brought to you by Conversational Collective, a community to explore, learn, and create technologies that leverage human conversations, including multimodal, voice first, and chat. And next slide. Yeah, so this is our event slide. As you know, this is a conversation design mastery, insights from experts. And we will get to the introductions of our lovely speakers today in a little bit. But first, let's go to the next slide. And now it takes a village to organize events such as these. And it is my honor and pleasure to be part of the Conversational Collective team. And let's meet our event organizers, yours truly, Ali, Ankar, Bishma, Brittany, Emily, Fatima, Masha, Megan, Meredith, Olga, myself, and PJ. Thank you so much, organizers, for everything that you do. It's an absolute pleasure to collaborate with you all. And Conversational Collective is a volunteer-run organization that relies on sponsorship. If you're looking to hire conversation designers or become a sponsor, get in touch with us or follow the link below. You don't need to copy the links down. It will be shared with you. And next slide. Thank you, Fatima. If you're new to Conversational Collective or you just want to become a part of our ever-growing community, follow the link below. And fill out our community form where you can provide us feedback, sign up for our newsletter, join our social channels like Slack and LinkedIn. And next slide, thank you. Furthermore, you can learn about our upcoming events by subscribing to our newsletter, following us on Eventbrite, or checking out our website. Reminder again, all links will be provided to you in the chat. And the next slide, thank you. Here's a quick agenda for our event today. We'll dive into our discussion shortly. First 10 minutes is the intro, the next 40 minutes or so discussion, and we'll wrap up with some questions. And next slide. And before we begin, can everyone introduce themselves in the chat? Tell us where you're joining from and what brought you here. And feel free to drop any questions in the chat during a discussion, and we will try to ask. And just remember not to direct message any of the organizers, but rather to include everyone in your questions so everyone can benefit. And now, without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished panelists who will be sharing their wisdom and experiences on this exciting topic of conversation design mastery, insights from the experts. Speakers, please take a moment to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about yourself. Let's start off with you, Vittorio.
Yeah, hello everybody. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Olivera, for the invite, and yeah, Conversational Collective for the invite as well. It's a great honor. I see a lot of people, some no names in the chat, so it's really nice to be here and start sharing a bit more about what we did in the last month. For those who don't know me, I'm Vittorio Molaschi. I'm one of the co-founders of Vocalime, and we are a design and development studio focused on conversation interfaces. So we help companies take advantage of conversational AI for customer service automation and for user engagement purposes. And yeah, I founded Vocalime almost 3 years ago with Gianluca, my co-founder. And yeah, we started with a strong focus on voice technology, especially building applications for Alexa. And then over the time, we started adding conversational AI related services to what we do. So right now we still do a lot of Alexa related work, but yeah, as of today, we're a conversational AI studio focusing on different types of conversational channels, so chat, voice, and anything that basically involves a dialogue between a a user and a machine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Vittorio and Giulia.
Yeah, thank you for having us. My name is Giulia, as you already introduced, Van den Winkel. So I'm half Dutch, half Italian, and I'm working as conversation designer at Vocalime together with Vittorio. And I'm also working on the side of marketing. So this is also where both sides of what I'm doing come in the reports and things we'll be discussing about today.
Great, terrific. It's so nice to have you both here. It's, you know what, it's been such an exciting thing to like look forward to this chat because I myself was part of your, one of the people you chose to interview. It was such an honor. I found it very interactive and lovely to be part of your process. And here we are again. So, and I now want to tell you a little bit about myself. Obviously, you two know about me, but for the rest of us in this call, I'm your host, Olivera Bay, and I am a senior trilingual conversation designer with CDI Services and with a background in design, marketing, and conversational AI design. As the moderator of this panel, it's my role to keep this conversation flowing smoothly. So make sure that we cover all the key topics throughout this discussion. I'll be guiding us, making sure both of you have an equal opportunity to chime in, as well as capturing as many of the questions as we can from the chat and the attendees that pre-registered as well. And just keeping in mind that we want to first cover the three key takeaways. And I'll ask both of you to chime in quickly on those three key takeaways. So first one is to discover the phases, including building and scaling the conversation, design teams, and how to navigate each stage successfully. So if I can have each of you like just chime in on that, and we'll move on to your presentation shortly. Oh, we can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, rookie mistake.
No problem.
So yeah, maybe we can start sharing the slide because it can help us
Okay.
maybe guide our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, just a very quick introduction for those who don't know. Yeah, it was present in the description of the event. Giulia and I, as part of our work here at Vocalime, we do a lot of research. So we help clients implementing conversational AI. But one thing that we really like is sharing what we know and discover about conversational AI, working with other companies and speaking with other conversation designers. And one of the big things that one of the big projects that we work on lately is a report about conversation design teams. And one of the most important topics that we covered as part of this report are the phases that conversation design teams go through. Of course, each organization is different. Okay, so we have large organizations, small organization. We have technology native organizations, or more like corporates that have been in business for even centuries, so they're not really used to adopt technologies like a startups. So everything that we're going to say is a sort of generalization, of course. But as part of this report, as part of this project that we did, we spoke with a lot of conversation designers. Specifically, we spoke with 15 different conversation designers, and it's also a pretty diverse panel in terms of types of organization that they work for and geographies as well. So we identified, I would say, three main phases that all organizations go through when setting up a conversation design team. Pretty much all the time, everything starts from one person. Okay, because most of the time when an organization starts to evaluate a conversational AI project, it's a business need that starts from existing business operations. So, for example, you may be an organization that handles manually thousands of client interactions each day, for example. And today you do it manually, but over time you start to think that there might be room for automation. So let's say you're a customer service director of that organization. You tell to one of your people, okay, could you start to look into this conversational AI thing and start to understand more? And that person might become your point of reference in the organization for all the conversational AI or AI projects. Or you might have a person who is present in the organization that take on pretty much all the conversation design related activities. So in the last months, in the last couple of years, this expression called conversation has started to to summarize, a full stack conversation designer is basically a person that is able to cover the different activities that are related to conversation design. And generally speaking, we can think about three main categories of activities. We have the AI training, so the preparation of the interaction model of a bot. We have the dialogue design, so the preparation of the different user flows. And then we have the response design. And the full stack conversation design is basically a person that takes care of all these activities. Of course, this person is part of an organization. Yeah. Sorry, Olivera, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, no, that's a really nice and complete walkthrough of the three phases. And I really like how you broke it down, and it keeps it easy to grasp. And what I was going to say, I was going to give Giulia a chance to speak to the second point of the takeaways about advocating for the legitimacy of conversation design within a team, and to learn how to showcase the ROI and build meaningful industry connections.
Yeah, this was definitely one of the topics that came up most amongst designer. We didn't even start out thinking that this would be a theme, but just asking about what the challenges that designers have, this was coming up again and again. So we thought we definitely need to have some space for this topic, especially because on the surface of it, it can be pretty not original. So of course, as designers, we need to carry through this sort of fight for legitimacy. So showing why we need design, showing what design is bringing to an organization, especially to people who are not willing to listen or that like to think only in business objectives. And the fact that the designers that we spoke with had tactics or had developed strategies to push design forward, and that they share those tactics with us. So these are the ones that I wrote down here are just a few of them that we mentioned in the report. So showing how you get to ROI. So obviously the people you're talking with might be interested in what is actually going to be their ROI, or how is automation going to bring that. As designers, it's useful to technically prove what the bot is bringing. So showing, okay, according to the analytics, we're doing the right thing now. We are reaching the objectives that we set out for ourselves. And now this is how we're going to get to ROI now that the users are happy, that this is the way to get there. Or leverage networking. So this is more about a lot of people, a lot of teams feel, okay, we're the pioneers in this. Nobody's ever done this. How do we even start in this domain? Working out the design for a bot, what questions should we be asking? So having, knowing someone who's been going through that process, you can tell other people in your organization, look, I know someone who built a chatbot and they did it this way, and this is a best practice. They got X result from this. So this is why we should do it this way. I think that's really powerful, and not something you think about directly when you're thinking about proving out your designs and bringing forward your designs, or also bringing like some research that speaks to people. It's something that having scientific research saying, no, your bot shouldn't be too human because the expectations are going to be really high, they're going to skyrocket, and then you're not going to be able to deal with those expectations. And there's research to say that. So we should be saying, okay, we're a bot, and declaring it's a bot, although of course there's debate around that. But yeah, some things about you should be proving out how the technology is going to help you reach some objectives rather than explaining the technology to people. Because, you know, if people are not interested in technology and they don't want to see innovation in the company, they're not going to care. They're not going to be excited, no matter how long you're going to talk about, oh yeah, but conversational AI is so cool, we should have it, we should do more of it. It's more about, okay, it's helping us reach those objectives, and then they can also see a reason why you're doing good design and you're trying to get those practices in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this point, Giulia. It's so important in terms of, you know, having concrete ROI for future clients or existing clients, because just removing obstacles for those clients and helping them see, like, okay, because it is hard to, you know, change business processes and the way, you know, things are managed. And if you have to make such a big change, it really helps to like paint the picture of like all the benefits and how to avoid the pitfalls, and you know, like just managing expectations and what they can look forward to, what will be at the end of that transformation, I think is so key, because we are asking, you know, clients to change, not for the sake of change, but it's going to actually have huge ROI. And it's something we covered in our last webinar in Conversational Collective. So some really great points here. Giulia, thank you. And the last one in the key takeaways was, maybe Vittorio, you can speak to this. It's the mastering the art of collaboration, and by developing effective partnerships with clients, agencies, and providers to ensure the project success. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, of course, different organizations at different points in time, they may need, you know, the help of an external partner. And we try to summarize some, maybe Giulia, we can switch to the slide about the partnering up. Yeah, thanks a lot. You know, and there are some factors that ultimately define the success of a collaboration between an agency and a client, especially when it comes to conversational AI. Yeah, and we all know it, collaboration between different teams isn't always easy, and especially collaboration between internal and external teams isn't always easy. But here we got some interesting perspectives from diverse point of views. So some people that we spoke with from a client's perspective, these are some of these are also clients of ours. Everybody agreed that, you know, open communication is really key. It's really crucial that both the internal team and the external team, when working on the same goal, on the same project, they set up a communication framework and ensure that information pass along very clearly from one person, from one team to another. Then another key point that clients highlighted is that everybody should think not in a we versus they a mindset, but more as a team mindset, and that's another thing. And then finally, the last one came from a client of ours that we work with on a very creative project. So in that case, of course, they wanted to align the importance of you know, having fun together to ensure that a creative outcome will be there. But of course, for a project, I would say, even for maybe less creative types of conversational AI project, I think it's very important to establish a good personal relations to ensure that the ultimate that the outcome of the project is well done. Of course, on the other side, there are agencies, there are vendors, there are technology providers like us as well. And from our perspective, but also from the perspective of other providers that we spoke with, it's really important to involve everybody from the client side, from the beginning to the end of the project. So we as consultants shouldn't go into a company, maybe set up a workshop, gather the needs of the client, and then come back after 2 months with a solution. That's not how it works, and that's not the right recipe to ensure a good outcome. Because I always say that we as consultants need to be very humble, because we know a lot about technology, we know a lot about conversation design, we know a lot about the specifics of this field, but there won't be anybody that knows the business, the company, and their customers, as well as someone that is working in that company. And ultimately, we as consultants need to build something for them. So it's really important to be involved, collaborate, talk all the time, because and work together. And then, of course, define roles and tasks. That is true for any type of project that you can think of. And third one, listen, understand where they're starting from. I think this one came from the interview that Giulia had with you, Oliver, if I'm not mistaken. It's really important to know to set the level of the playing field. So we as an agency or as a provider may start the project. We may know a lot of things on one side, but we may not have knowledge about all the internal processes of the organization. While people working on the client side, they know a lot about the business, they know a lot about their customers, but they may not really know a lot about conversational AI. So it's really important in the very first phases of a project, to ensure this contamination and this exchange of the information. And then, of course, finally, this is my mantra: I have skin in the game. It's tough sometimes to be an agency, to be a provider, to be someone that needs to give advice to a client, because sometimes it can happen that you need to give honest advice that it might even go against your own interests, against the interests of the technology provider. But ultimately, I think it's the only way to be an honest agency, an honest vendor. And it's really important to think as if you were someone working in that company. So it's really all about thinking about the collaboration between a client and a provider as a unique team, and having a common goal ultimately is the only way to success. We cannot hear you, Olivera. Not yet.
Okay. How about now? Is this okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, it was just, I liked your point about having those honest conversations, even it means, sometimes saying something that, it means that, still doing the right thing, even if it means maybe losing part of the business. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, of course, that's not ideal. Everyone wants, to ensure the bottom line, but in the end, nobody wins if integrity is at stake. So I think it is always like just giving true feedback means like holding yourself accountable to do what's right, and like having skin in the game. I like how you put that. So I think those are really important. And I think that goes for any businesses, not just conversational AI and just human to human interaction, and just doing the right thing. So really great point. This is about integrity. And so from there, what I'd love to do, and again, I want to just like make sure, you know, I bring focus to these amazing reports you both created. And that was like a huge, you know, body of work. A lot went into that. I bet I probably don't even like know the half of it. I would love to know, let's go into some of the questions you have, like who would you recommend these 2 reports to? And yeah, if you can mention the names of the report, that would be great. Road to Conversation Design and Leading with Conversation Design.
I'll go with this one. So yeah, we created these 2, and Giulia especially created these 2 amazing reports. One is Road to Conversation Design, the other one is Leading with Conversation Design. You know, they started from, you know, our willingness to share the knowledge that we have about conversation design, and from all the conversation that we had with amazing experts like you, Olivera. The first one is really for people that are interested in conversation design, but perhaps haven't started to work in the field yet. So they want to understand more about what it means to be a conversation designer. What are the basic concepts of conversation design? Or maybe you're in a company and your manager has asked you to, you know, look into this conversation design thing, and you want to look to better understand what it's all about. And it's really great because, you know, the thing that is really great about the report, about all the basic concepts that we included, are of course the interviews that we did with the experts. And maybe Giulia will touch upon this later, a bit later, but it's really amazing to see all the different backgrounds that conversation designers come from. So yeah, it can be a great inspiration for someone that is interested into the field and maybe is thinking about entering into the field. The other, Leading with Conversation Design, is more about conversation design teams, how they are born within organizations, how they evolve, what are the processes they usually follow during their work. So it's more for people that are inside organization that have already started to implement conversation AI. Perhaps it's for people that are full stack conversation designer. They're juggling through their organization, evangelizing everybody about conversation design. And we got some feedbacks, amazing feedbacks from some conversation designers, and some of them wrote us say, "Okay, thank you for this because you helped me better understand what is my role within the organization." And yeah, that was really amazing to hear. So yeah, the first one is more for people interested. This one is more for people already familiar, that maybe they already set up a team within the organization, and they want some tips, they want some examples from other designers on how to scale their team.
That's great. Did you want to add anything to that, Giulia?
No, I think that's really like who those true reports are for. And I would just add that in the first one, there's like a lot of space. So maybe I can go to this image as well. So what Vittorio touched upon, like one of the most interesting things about the first one, aside from all the knowledge and expertise about, okay, what do you really need to know about conversation design and what are key terms that everyone in the industry is using and so on, is that we have those interviews. And one of the cool things that we saw from all the interviews is how really there's people coming from all kinds of backgrounds into conversation design. And a lot of them like from customer service, because yeah, we do see that a lot of companies are saying, okay, we need to start automating. So maybe someone from customer service is the first person they go to because they already know how the conversations with users are going and so on. But really, like we had, of course, linguistics, marketing, or art directing, like in your case, or copywriting. Some people are conversational scientists, and they've been looking to start working to conversation design for ever since the 90s, but they've been waiting for the situation to be right and to be where we are at today, to work in conversation design the way we're doing today. But really, it's so fascinating to see how different areas also bring with you different expertise. And the way we saw with the team, the teams are structured, you can definitely like make use of that different expertise. So if you've been working in nursing, let's say, if that was like what you studied in university, that's something you can bring into your empathy, the way you're able to get in on the user and like make them feel reassured. Or maybe if you're a linguist, then you have such a deep NLU knowledge and like you can bring a lot to your organization in that way. So this was a really interesting finding for us to see that there is a lot of space for different domains, and because it's not such a structured area of knowledge yet, a lot of neighboring sciences or domains of knowledge can bring a lot to it.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Giulia. So what I also like notice is like like how to leverage your past industry experience and apply it to your conversation design, your new conversation design role. Because just because you have transferable skills doesn't mean one knows how to transfer them. It's not a given. Nobody necessarily shows you how, but actually with this report, you were attempting to do that. You're trying to give examples of like, okay, let's say you have specific industry knowledge and you did certain skills, like you pointed out, utilizing your empathy as a nurse, and then utilizing that same empathy as a conversation designer and empathizing with users and customers. So I love that you're giving like concrete examples, and hopefully that can help people connect the dots in terms of like considering this as a very very good career possibility for them. So that's a really great way. And I like how you have the speech bubbles, really fun too. So yeah, we have like a whole bunch of more questions. So, we have questions like maybe Vittorio, you can go next, and I'll just lump these two questions. The sources for your reports, I know it's the 13 different conversation designers, and I'm just going to lump it into the next question as well. What was the most interesting finding and pattern that you got from the 13 different conversation designers you interviewed?
Yeah, I would say this one that Giulia just talked about, the diverse background is really the most fascinating, because you see people that studied really anything. They study psychology, or they study language, they study nursing, or communication. So seeing this diverse background, I mean, it's really rare to find a field, to find a sector where there's so much diversity in terms of background. So that was one of the most interesting thing. And then another very interesting thing I would say is really also how more related to organizations and work is really about how different organizations are approaching in a different conversation AI in a different way. So it's a new field, it's a new role, it's a new sector. Everything is new, and everything is really evolving at a rapid pace. So you really see how organizations are really trying to find what's the right balance, what's the right position within the organization for a certain role. So we've seen this is something that we didn't really analyze too much in the report, but it's good material for a future report. It's more where the conversation design team fits within organization. So for example, we saw it included, let's say, in the customer service department, because many times for organizations that deal with a lot of client interaction, it usually starts from that department. In other types of organization, more technology oriented, sometimes it fits under product. In other types, in our organization, we saw it as a separate unit altogether, reporting directly to a C-level. So it's also this topic of where the conversation design fits within the organization is really interesting, and is something that I'm really curious to see how it's gonna evolve in the next years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like where it fits in the organization, but also leading into the next question in terms of like, do all teams follow the same growth process?
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, so we touched upon this earlier, but yeah, as I was saying, I mean, each organization is different, but yeah, we summarizing, we notice there are three major phases. Usually start with one, but and you need to have yeah, someone that is able to take care of the different activities related to conversation design. You need someone able to to be a connector between the business side of things and the technology. Here we call it product manager, but really it's more about a person, regardless of the title, that can be this type of connector between business, technology, and design. Usually it's a product manager, but it can be someone else, and then it's a developer or at least someone technical. And then everybody, this is really related to what Giulia was saying earlier about the legitimacy of conversation design. Everybody basically that we talked with highlighted the importance of having a the C-level buy-in for, especially in the setup of the team. And then when the team is set up, you realize that the bot, your assistant, is doing well. You may pass to the second phase. Second phase, many conversation designer that we spoke with told us that probably the next hires are usually other full stack conversation designers. So still generalists that are able to take care of different conversation design related activities. But then as things grow, it starts there starts to be some room for specialties and specialists as well. And yeah, it goes from there. Generally speaking, you want generalists at the very beginning, and then as soon as you go ahead in the journey, as soon as your assistant handle a higher and higher number of conversations, you need you start to realize that you need specialists to take care of fine tuning the system. It really becomes more like a science at some point. But when you get to the third phase, and when you get to the first phase, you really have an assistant that handles like millions of conversations per year. You realize that even a minor change in your assistant can have a huge business impact. So it starts to be more like a full-fledged digital product. And at some point you realize that you might need specialists in the domain. You realize that you need UX researchers. You realize you need this kind of roles that are really able to help you and make the assistant slightly better each time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that answer. And I think, I don't know if you saw Merlinda's question in the chat, but that was the very question about if there is a need for more full stack conversation designers or not. So thank you for answering that, because as you said, like as the companies becomes more complex and bigger, there's a need for more specialized designers and overall teams, more complex setup for the teams. So that was great that you're able to answer that. And I'm also going to try to answer one of the questions from the attendee questions. What are the 3 top challenges in conversational AI design? It's from Harvest Wang.
Maybe I can speak to this. So
Sure.
Definitely one of the challenges that we saw is something that we talked about before. So the fight for legitimacy. I'm not going to go too deep into this one again, but I just want to stress how much it was brought up in conversations with other designers, showing that's really a hot topic, and that people are trying to find ways to make our voice as designers heard in different contexts. So definitely that's one of the biggest ones, which if you think about it, it's not even coming to the work of design yet, but it's so pivotal to allow the work of design that we have to consider it. The second one, I would say, is probably trust. And this is something that I think Manisha, one of the designers I talked to, discussed in great detail. And if you're interested in this, you can definitely check out the Road to Conversation Design, because I think that's where we delve into it. But the way we talked about it with her was she saw two different sides of trust. So the fact that on one hand, you have people, especially now in retrospect with ChatGPT, because it wasn't out yet when we talked, but with ChatGPT, people have really high expectations. And with this really high expectations that we're trying to meet, we should try to actually manage those. And like as designers, include in the design something to the effect of, no, this is the amount of things that you can do, and this is the kind of tasks that it can handle as a bot. And let's focus on those, and let's not try things that are too out of the comfort zone of the bot. And on the other hand, you have still a lot of people who are not comfortable with bots, or as soon as, I think especially with voice, but I might be mistaken, that the feeling of, okay, I'm calling customer service and now a robotic voice is talking to me. A lot of people just drop out of the conversation. Like that's it, that they don't even give a chance to it. And I think we had a really interesting case about this also in Edinburgh, where someone from Poly AI, I think it was, they presented something about, we know that best practice is to make it known to the person that they're talking to a bot, but we also saw that with the data, that's where we lose the people. That's the moment that they drop out of the conversation. So there is a tension there of, you need to be able to gain the trust on both sides, both kinds of users. Those are who are really excited and have really high expectations, and or they might even be the same person in some situations. You know, like you might have different moments of how you play your trust, but the challenge for designers is knowing how to manage the expectations, but also getting the trust from people who don't give you the trust yet as a bot designer, or yeah. And then I would say to the last point, something that we've been thinking about lately, and that will actually be coming up maybe in one of the projects that we're coming out next week with, is bias. As designers, this is like so prominent of a topic in our work, because we're really trying to design for everyone, and we're really trying to make sure that everyone is able to trust us with the conversation and feel like you're talking to them directly, so that it should be really customized, like the way they're talking to them, and that they understand exactly what you're talking about. So it's really easy also to fall in this trap of, yeah, we talk about voice bots and we talk about chat bots, and we use all those like technical terms in our little bubble of the conversational AI. But the moment you're designing for someone, you should forget all about it. And that's the moment where bias can come in to like make you forget that the person you're talking to, or that should be talking to your bot, doesn't know anything about that. So being able to zero in on who's in front of you, know that you're a biased person, because we all are, and check in with your bias to be able to accommodate as much as possible everyone who's going to talk to your bot. We can't hear you, sorry.
Sorry about that. We can't hear you. So I just want to say those are some really great takeaways. And I want to address a couple of more questions from your the list of the ones you had, Vittorio and Giulia. In terms of the economic support and time that is needed to set up a whole team, can you speak to different strategies on that, please? How about you go, Vittorio?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, again, this is another generalization, but yeah, it pretty maps out the different strategy that a team, that an organization may have when either starting to work on conversational AI, or investing more into conversational AI. So generally speaking, we have three different strategies. there are organizations that decide to do it all by themselves. So internalizing all the activities related to the design and the development of their assistant. There are organizations that they may collaborate with an external partner for some things, for some activities. So these are organizations that they do have internal competencies to take care of conversation design and conversational AI in general, but for different reasons, they may decide to need the help of an external partner. So an example could be that you already have developers, you already have a conversation designer, but that conversation designer is not specialized on voice, let's say. You may want perhaps it could be for a short period of time, someone specialized in voice, to guide the first investment of the company into this new channel. This is an example. And then of course there are also companies that especially at the beginning, that they decide to externalize all the activities, either because it is their very first experiment when it comes to conversational AI, or because they don't feel that conversational AI is really strategic for these organizations. So yeah, we've seen companies, implementing all these different strategies. There's not a right answer or a right recipe. It really depends on the stage that an organization is at when starting to invest into conversational AI, and then it's also really about how strategic it is for an organization. One thing that we are seeing when it comes to internalization, collaboration with an external partner and externalization is really common at the very beginning when a company didn't do anything in terms of conversational AI. You rely on someone else at the very beginning, either to help you or to take care of all the activities. But what we've seen is that as the organization has invested into conversational AI for either a lot of months or many years, they start to internalize. They start to internalize because they feel that it is a strategic competence and capabilities. So perhaps comparing it to other activities, to other company functions that remain externalized basically forever. We see that there are some companies, and especially the ones that they have a lot of customer service interactions. At some point they decide to internalize because they feel that it is a strategic competence for the organization.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a really important topic. I'm so glad you gave us some insights on that. And what else would we like to cover in terms of the next few questions? Giulia, do you have any specific of the remaining questions that there are from the ones you provided? Which ones would you like to tackle before I answer the last couple of questions from the chat? Because we're getting at 10 minutes before the hour.
Maybe we could talk a bit about process, because we haven't tackled this yet. And this was also one of the areas where we spent a lot of time in the report. Particularly, so like we've been saying, for all things, process is something that is going to be individual to every situation, every configuration of who's going to be in the team and what kind of organization it is. But one crucial thing would be the starting point. So when you're starting out, you're deciding, okay, we need a bot. There's some things that you need to figure out before you get even started. So you want to know from the beginning exactly why you want to have this bot. That should be very clear, because it can get to a point if it's too late on in the journey that you're figuring this out, where it's like, okay, why have we been doing this at all? So getting that straight out from the beginning, and then figuring out also at what point you are with respect to, have you already had a chatbot at some point or some kind of automation, and now would you like to iterate on that, or do you already have a unit within your company who's doing this, like a human unit who's doing this, and are you just gonna automate what part of what this unit is doing? So maybe customer service is like a classic example of this. Or it could also be that you're just starting from zero, and maybe this is like the more common case with more creative use cases. And then at that point, based on where you're starting from, you also know what your discovery phase will be. So where will the research start? Are you reading like a lot of transcripts and like starting from talking to people working customer service and figuring out everything about your product? Or do you just maybe have a few FAQs that could also be a starting point in some cases? But of course, if it's like a really creative product and starting from scratch and you're going really for the creative thing, then it could be that you're starting more with inspiration and creative workshops, getting ideas, generating ideas together. And based on that, then the process follows. We've been able to get together, like from all the insights that we got from designers, a pretty generalized, of course, but interesting line of most people follow these steps-ish. So discovery, setting goals. This, of course, at the beginning, you know what I was talking about. You should know why you're going to go with the bot, but then having specific goals of like, how will we know we succeeded? And this is the metrics that we're going to look for, and breaking down those goals, because you're not going to do everything right from the start. So also deciding what are the criteria for prioritizing, also knowing, okay, now that we know this is the first use case we're going to work on, are we going to now start ideating ideas all together based also on the form of the team? So if it's like with an external team, who's doing that part, who's involved, the design, of course, this is the part that we all love, where the work is actually coming out and we start getting a feel of how the bot works, and the conversations are written, happy paths, and then all the recovery conversations and all of that. And of course, development. And one of the most crucial things of the whole process, of course, is the routine testing. So this wasn't a phase in our process just because of how we think, and we got from others also that it should be present at all stages of just questioning what you're doing, testing it out yourself, and then also other people extending it to other teams and all of that. This, of course, I think is a crucial part of the whole thing.
No, thank you so much, Giulia. You just gave us so much about the process. That was amazing. I hope that's really helpful, especially to those people coming in new into the industry. There's already a lot to unpack in there, and in addition in the reports. And I want to give a chance to answer Ben Hazel's question. His question is, did you come across challenges in conversation designers having to fight to own the copy with their bots?
So to be honest, we didn't really tackle this topic, which I think is extremely interesting. And I think I've been hearing lots and lots about it, like in other conversation design communities. I've heard a lot of talk about it in Hillary Black's community, and of people struggling, especially with recruiting processes, which sometimes can be apparently a little sketchy, of how people ask to have complete designs done just as part of the recruiting process. And then that's, of course, something you should be aware of if you're applying, that can happen. But no, we haven't had, to my knowledge, specific discussions with the designers we've interviewed, but definitely something we could be looking forward to integrating in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important one. And I myself had worked in different places, one of which I'm not going to name the place, but the process there was that marketing would approve the final copy. And that was always a conversation with them to be had, and sometimes a negotiation too, because it's important that, you know, all the different stakeholders be part of the process, but also and really important that in that process is the education piece. What is conversation design? Because, for example, conversational copywriting is very different than marketing copywriting, and just aligning in terms of those different teams, aligning on like, what are the differences, what are the common things, and how can we support each other to give the best possible experience for users while they're interacting with a conversational assistant. So I think that's a really key one. Any final thoughts? We have 4 more minutes. We do have a few questions about ChatGPT that are a little bit still, you know, like somewhat outside of the scope of this, but I still want to like try to answer one of them. Actually, this question is from Mahmoud Goma, and he asks how ChatGPT contribution in conversational AI adoption. What do you think about that? Let's say, do you want to give that a try, Vittorio?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, these are a really interesting question. And yeah, we've been talking about this internally for a while. You know, chatbots had their big popularity 6-7 years ago. And then they were kind of surpassed in terms of hype by other technologies. And now, thanks to ChatGPT, everybody is back to talk about chatbots. So if we think about, you know, conversational AI adoption, I think ChatGPT is really helping a lot of companies to think about chatbots again. And I see it personally from all the discussions that I've been having the last month after ChatGPT has been launched. And now everybody seems to be interested again into chatbots. They may be interested, you know, in a standard chatbots, let's call it like that. But you know, ChatGPT has really helped to, you know, bring chatbots back into the conversation. So yeah, we should thank ChatGPT for that.
No, absolutely. It's become, we've all I think, benefited from it, including the mainstream and people that didn't know much about chatbots. I think that's definitely, you know, like we're going to continue to see improvements across all different streams and industries. And so I think that's a really great point. One last question. We have 2 minutes. So maybe Giulia, you can take this and make it like short and sweet. Do you think, this is from Ben Hazel, do you think ChatGPT will take away the creative aspect of a conversation designer, and will innovative conversations suffer as a result?
Oh, good question. I mean, I see where this question is coming from, but I think on one hand, you could argue that prompting itself is a very creative enterprise. Getting a good prompt is not easy, and there's definitely some creativity and some trial and error in getting to the right one for the specific context you're working for. And of course, the output itself could be more going into one direction, but I think once you're plugging in also some indications about brand tone of voice, and the more specific you're going to be able to make those, and like describe the character who's going to be your bot, and create a really detailed bot persona and input that in your prompt, I think that makes for really creative outputs too. And of course, it really depends also on the use case, because we know from our perspective with our clients, we've had some of the most creative works being done using and leveraging ChatGPT or like GPT technologies. And so I think it really depends, but there's some potential for creativity still if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I think that's great food for thought. And I think we have so much more to talk about on this topic, but I just want to thank both of you, Giulia and Vittorio, for coming in and your contributions and these great reports that you've, contributed to this whole industry. I think many many generations of conversation designers are going to benefit. And thank you for all the attendees and the organizers today. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day or night, and we will see you on the next one, and look out for the recording of the session.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It was our pleasure. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.